Tracy. How are you?
I should introduce myself. I am Tracy, or Teresa Bolger, when I'm at work. And Derek has, for some bizarre reason, asked me to help him host this episode. So thanks for that.
You're not helping me host it. You're hosting it.
Oh, all right. Don't put me on the spot. As I said to you earlier, I've never hosted a dinner party, so I'm a little bit nervous. So I suppose we should congratulate you on episode 100. I suppose we definitely should. Well done. Fair play to you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I suppose I will jump in here just to say a big thank you to John, the very elusive John. And I know, Tracy,
I didn't believe in John for a long time.
You didn't, and
I
Joanne
thought God lived in your head.
Well, maybe he still does. I could have been at the quiz thing when he was on. It could have been a paid actor. We don't know, but he does an awful lot of work for me with regards to editing and throwing the stuff up on YouTube. And basically any questions that I have to do with technology and on that side of the stuff, he helps me with. And I know, John, I wreck your head. And you're not, and he's too kind to say it. You know what I mean? Like we respect each other a lot, and he's too kind to say it. And he offered his services right back before episode 1. And so I want to say a massive thank you to John. There we go.
Yay, John!
Yes, John. Well done.
Imaginary legend. He's great. He doesn't like the limelight.
No.
He's just a guy that works away in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
on him. Good man. So I also wanted to say thank you to you, and I'm sure on behalf of many of your listeners, because you started out at the beginning of a pandemic, and I suppose for me and for a lot of other people, I really turned to podcasts during that time to keep the head above water, because I live alone, which is by choice. I like being alone a lot, and I'm very set in my ways at this time, but I never realized until I was forced to stay at home on my own that, I took a lot from my interactions with people. When I would emerge into the world and interact, I really took a lot away from that. So listening to the podcast really was, it was comforting and interesting, and thanks for that. And I'm sure that's to be said for a lot of your listeners.
Well, thank you very much. It's very nice to hear it.
Give yourself plenty of credit for that.
I will. I want to say, obviously, thanks to you for coming on and doing this, because it was, a few episodes back, it may have been even like 20 or 30. I asked my friend Josh, who's been on 2 or 3 times at this point, to do a podcast where he would introduce it. And this was, like I said, it was a good few episodes back, and he couldn't because he was too busy.
And neither would the other 98 people.
No, they wouldn't either. No, honestly. You were the next because, and I tell you what, Tracy, and it's because of your support, and you've listened to a number of the podcasts as well. Like, and you commented on a number of the podcasts, and sometimes it feels as if maybe you're kind of speaking into the void kind of thing. But when you do get that like feedback, it kind of gives you a little push on the kind of lower days where you just need that. So you were clearly the choice then to go, and I'm very happy that you did.
Well, I'm honored. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's enough for the thank yous. Let's
go. Yeah, let's stop being nice to each other now, because I suppose the other thing that came out of this that was unexpected is we're friends now. I have a new friend, and I didn't expect that when you contacted me. I thought I'd be on this podcast, but we're good pals now.
We
podcast
are.
Friend.
A podcast friend. And one of those things where the first time I met you, obviously I'd asked you to come on the podcast to talk about hypnotherapy.
Yeah.
Tracy's hypnotherapist, by the way.
That's right. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's
hypnotherapist. That's what I do.
That's what she does. But listen, it was that kind of first meeting that we had in Savory Fair, close to where you work, and we got on so well at the start. It seemed just very kind of a natural fit. And I'm going to get on to your episode because you're one of the starred guests with the asterisk next to him.
Excuse me.
Well, I can't just have one. Just you talk about you for the whole thing. But it was.
I was going to ask you.
Yeah,
why is your favorite episode? Episode 20.
Episode 20, no doubt. I looked that up this morning to see what number you are, because there's 100 of them now. But it was that just that we got on, we chatted about music and all that, and it was a very natural fit. And then we got to meet again, and then you came on, and you were obviously one of the people who was able to come to the house, which was like, it was great to have the people at the house. But unfortunately we can't now. But it was we got on very well, and obviously it's all good from now.
Yeah. So I did get to come over. Wasn't that post the first lockdown, or it was somewhere in between? I've lost track.
No, you're right. you're right, because it was like, I can't remember the numbers exactly, but it was like, I think there was like 11 I did solos, or like 7 to 18, something like that. So you were back within the kind of short period that we had where we got a few people in and gone again.
Yeah, I know I was due to come on and then there was lockdown, but yeah, you were a little unlucky in that starting your podcast, or were you? How did it serve you to start a podcast at the beginning of a lockdown or a pandemic?
Yeah, I think it was good for me.
Okay.
Because like you, I obviously don't live alone, but I spend a lot of my time. I have 2 rooms upstairs that people might know who listen to the podcast, that I spend a lot of time watching films, reading books, things like that, which are kind of, pursuits that you do on your own anyway, really.
Yeah.
And well, at least I do with films, because I don't want people asking me questions through the.
Oh, you would hate me. Who's that?
Oh God, no. But
anything.
but it was that it was the sense of like keeping busy and even keeping in touch with people, which is one thing that the first lockdown, not so much because I tried to do the solo episodes, because I was very reluctant to go the way we are now. And I was thinking, well, we'll get, like, after the first lockdown, we'll be back and then everybody can come back in. But obviously, like, we will chat about it later on, it opened up new opportunities as well, without having the constraints of having people over. That was a problem. It was grand to get you over when you're working just not too far away, or someone from the gym. But obviously, if we're going outside of the town, it becomes either they come to me or I come to them, and logistically it gets a bit messy then,
Yeah, you can have anyone from anywhere in the world now.
This is it. And I had some places.
And you are maybe a little bit more technically up to speed now, or is that still all John Francis? Does he come in and put the headphones on your head and go?
He will do that thing, and I didn't know this was a thing. This is how bad I am at technology, that someone can take over your computer. Like, someone can like log into your computer and you be looking at the screen and they're doing things. And I thought this was like
remote. Yeah.
I didn't know that. Like, and John was like, I couldn't figure out something, and he was just taking over. I was like, what's going on my screen? And he says, oh no, that's just me on. I thought it was some sort of voodoo he was doing on me computer. But but it's I'm better in patient sense. I was very impatient with technology, I think.
Yeah.
And I think I'm a little bit better with it now.
Just because you've had to be. You don't look very sure. For anyone who's just listening to this, let me tell you, Derek doesn't look very sure.
No, the last 2 sentences I was very I'm not so sure about it, but maybe it's good to have John.
Yeah. Where would you be without him?
I don't know.
So guests, you've had you're on your 100th episode. Now I know you've had a couple of repeat guests, but that's a hell of a lot of people that you've sat down with.
Yeah, so, I like we chatted before this and what the story was going to be with regards to kind of talking about guests and stuff. And I've got a list of guests, and I'm not sure how many's on it, but I wanted to kind of point certain ones out for different reasons, and they're kind of in order. I think they're in order anyway. But I suppose the first guest that I ever had was Martin Hickey, my coach in jiu-jitsu and CrossFit, and he obviously was able to come over here for episode 3, and now it helped an awful lot that I knew him, and I knew him very well, and I was comfortable, but it was all of a sudden this weird idea that I was in charge of where this was going to go, like, this questions, and where I find, worrying about, like, oh, what if there's dead air at some point, like, and what if there's this, and it's one of those things that I'm sure everybody goes through when they're doing something like this.
Sure.
And it was great to have Martin over, like, and it was good crack, and I felt very relaxed, and it felt like, yeah, maybe I can do something with it that, that I've to kind of bring forward this mental health thing, because I'd done all I could with regards to my own stuff, with like putting it out there with blogs and doing even the first 2 episodes where I talked kind of exclusively about my own experiences in mental health. So this was the first where I asked the question, when did you first become aware of mental health? And I didn't like this question. I didn't think it was going to become as important to me as it has. But like every time I ask it, there's this different response.
It's a great takeoff point, isn't it? Like the people just flow from there, I find, because like you say, I've listened to loads of them, and it just gets the conversation going. On that note, just for anyone who has, dipped in and out of the podcast, perhaps, and the way sometimes you don't start at the beginning and work your way through. So maybe tell the people who are listening a little bit about, you're talking about blogs and stuff there, about your own background, why you were compelled to start this podcast, why you do bring in the mental health aspect quite a lot.
Yeah. Well, I get like the start, I suppose, was when I was first diagnosed with depression. I was like 21 or 22, and I was put on a kind of a mild depressant and some sleeping tablets because I was having trouble sleeping, and that really didn't sit comfortably with me at the time. And I took them for a certain amount of time, and then decided, no, they're not for me. I didn't think they were having any effect. A few years down the line, I had a kind of a collapse, and I wanted to look in my mind. I had suicidal ideation, and it was really strong in my room one day, and I was just basically kind of walking towards a press there was a knife in it, that I wanted to kind of take my own life. And it was just, I was able to get it together enough to ring my mom and get down to my dad who lived close by. And, we went from there with, therapy and medication and, all this kind of stuff was very, very helpful. And we came, to a certain point where I kind of thought, maybe I can start doing some stuff to make myself better. And like with regards to physical exercise, I used to go for runs and cycles and things like that. And then it kind of sprang from there where I became a little bit more confident, like feeling that I could, if not quite control the anxiety, at least have it in place where I could navigate around it at times, and get to
cope.
Yeah, just get up to Dublin to see my mom, or get into the cinema, which was a big thing at the time. And there was certain things like that were little achievements as I went on. And then I went into the gym, into Fusion there with Martin, and I kind of grew. I was starting to grow from there. I was getting used to being around people and feeling like I had a place in there and a place on a team almost. The jiu-jitsu side of things, and then into CrossFit, and that's where it kind of came about when I started writing the blogs. And because I was sharing the blogs on Facebook, I was friends with so many people in the gym on Facebook that it became, a lot of. I was surprised by the kind of feedback I got with it, and I thought, I suppose with the podcast, it was really an impulsive decision. One day I just said, I'm going to do it. And I said, right, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to say it in here, because then it'll be a case of everybody's going to be like, oh, what's the sort of that podcast? When are you going to do the podcast?
You put it out there now. So,
I put it out there, and I said it to John, and he like immediately came back and said, look, if you need any help with the technical side of things, I can help you with that. And that was kind of the push then, because I felt like it wasn't just me then. There was someone else who had my back in that kind of, the podcast kind of things, but the technical side of things especially. And then, we went for it one day, and here we are, 100 episodes later.
Yeah. And it's a really good thing to do, because I think what it offers people, when they hear a story like yours, or, anyone who discusses mental health from the point of view of coming from a really dark place. Suicidal ideation is no joke, like, as you know. And if one person happens to come across your podcast that's in that dark place and is maybe feeling hopeless, even to have a glimmer of, there's somebody who's exactly where I was, they get it, and he's doing okay now, he's coping. It offers hope, and hope is a really powerful thing, especially in moments like that, So, it just brings it back around again to how important it is to talk about mental health. And I love that, the podcast has kind of taken on a life of its own and is great, and there's, music and just talking about life and everything. But there is that common thread that, when did you first become aware of mental health? So everybody gets, a bit of insight into somebody else. And as much as we're all individual, we're all so different, there's a hell of a lot of common themes, and, it can be really comforting sometimes just to know, even if, you're low, that somebody else gets it. And even that somebody understands is huge. And then it's really huge when you hear somebody who is where you were, and they've maybe taken a few steps up, and they're feeling better, they're coping, life's better, they're doing things that you couldn't imagine doing yourself, and that stuff's huge. So it's a really cool thing to do, Derek.
Well, what's great about it as well, I like, people have come to me about it and said like that they've they're anxious and, they're feeling low and they're having a low period now. And I can look, I'm not a therapist or anything like that, but I can at least give them some sort of, like, I can have empathy with them and be, suggest things if they needed me to suggest things with regards to who they might go to talk to. And that's great. And because I've talked to professionals on here, I can actually name people who they can go to talk to. But what's also brilliant from my point of view is that I'm so open about it now that I'll just be in training, wherever I might be, and I'll just say to someone that I'm feeling anxious or I'm having a panic attack or something like that. And it's as normal as it is, you know what I mean? To me, I don't even worry about it anymore. That's a great thing. That's a great feeling to have, where you can just be very open with anybody.
Yes. Yeah. I'm a big proponent of that behavior. Just say it out loud. Of
course.
Even friends who are like trying to make up excuses, if they don't want to go out. I'll always say, just say, I don't want to go out tonight because I don't want to be around people. I'm not in that place, instead of I have to come up with some really good excuse,
Yeah.
Better just, and it comforts other people as well. I think when you're really honest, it's like, oh, it's okay to say that, I don't have to pretend it's not happening. It's not a secret,
Exactly. Yeah. It's great.
Good stuff.
Well, go on.
Oh, you go on.
Do you know what? I'll continue because I'll go through just some of them. We won't give a big monologue on everyone, but Josh came in then. He was like the 6th episode, I think it was. And he came in and, we got off talking about psychology. He's very into his psychology and stuff like that. And
I remember listening to Josh.
And then all of a sudden we started veering off into talking about The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary. And hold on, I'm dragging something down here. And it got into like almost like an evaluation of each player's psychology, and it became like, I felt then that we were, what the podcast would be able to do from then on was to examine like things like that, larger things. It couldn't just be an hour of mental health with every person, because that's not going to kind of work. I want people to come in and hear a bit of advice, or listen to a professional talk about how they deal with things and how, other people can deal with things, and then talk about random stuff, and that was the first one where we kind of went off on a bit of a tangent. And he was wearing it was probably because he was wearing those stupid Jordan things that he's got on there. These massive, he looks like, Marty McFly, that's what he was like coming in the door. But it was brilliant, and he was a great guest, and he's been on, like, obviously he was on after that as well. And then, of course, someone called Tracy was on it. But no, your episode, and this was really a kind of breakthrough for me, because this was the first time I was talking to a professional, someone who was helping people professionally, Okay. And it was great that we'd met beforehand, because I was very relaxed with you coming to the house. But
I have that effect on people.
I have no doubt.
You would hope so, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Being a hypnotherapist, if I can't make people feel relaxed, I'm in trouble.
Wouldn't work. But because I knew it was great. But I think now, if I hadn't known, I think the pressure, I would have felt more pressure, more nerves, because it was, you don't want to get something wrong. Like, neither do you, obviously, coming in and talking. But I didn't want to ask a dumb question, and then I did. I don't know if you remember it.
I don't.
Do you not? No,
I certainly don't remember marking anything in my head as a stupid question.
No, it wasn't a question, actually. It was more of a stupid statement. But I said about I said about hypnotists, and you said, well, I'm not a hypnotist, I'm a hypnotherapist. And
everybody calls hypnotherapists hypnotists.
I know, but it's not, because I was talking about like people performing like chickens and stuff.
Yes, that hypnotists are for entertainment. But I mean, that's okay. My God, the amount of clients that ask me about, you're not going to make me act like a chicken. Well, no. What on earth would that do to make life better?
It's always the chicken.
Yeah,
isn't it?
That's the representation that's out there.
I suppose, but that was
world.
that was the, it wasn't a big mistake or anything, but it was kind of like it was great to have kind of talked to you about the professional side of things, and it kind of it gave me more confidence to be like, oh great, I can now talk to people who are professionals within the industry of helping people, basically. I also, Kieran Davern is another one I wanted to point out. Kieran is Martin's coach, and he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he's just when someone talks about very kind of lovingly about someone. Like Martin has great time for Kieran, you know, and all like they're good friends as well as, you know, coach and student kind of a relationship.
Yes.
But and I had met Kieran, I think, at that point at a seminar, but I hadn't spoken to him and all that. Like, and he was just you build up an expectation about someone, and I was doing it to myself. Like, it was just making myself nervous. And Kieran was able to he was another one who was able to come over to the house, and he spoke so well about jiu-jitsu, but he spoke about like the ideas on performances and how you know, he gets up for performance and at the highest level, you know, because he's competing professionally as you know, a jiu-jitsu grappler. So it was brilliant to talk to him and even get a chance to talk to him about his experiences on Ireland's Fittest Family. His family's been on it 3 times now, which it's a pretty incredible. So that, like, to my coach's coach kind of thing, it was great to have him over the house, and obviously I've met him since and stuff like that. So I've very much comfortable in his presence now. Next guest, you know, actually, well, you've been on a podcast with her, Ginny Breslin.
Oh, legend, yeah.
Legend. Ginny,
I follow her on Instagram now, and like, God, she's so cool.
Oh, she's a savage. She's a savage. And when she was on, obviously we talked a lot about that, and, you know, about CrossFit in general. And again, she was another one who's allowed here. Maybe I had more people here than I think, but she was over, but she really talked so well about her mom, who had passed away a couple of years beforehand.
Yeah.
And it was the way she kind of spoke about the grief, and beyond that, then about the memories and how she holds her mom so close, you know. And it was so beautiful. Like, it was a beautiful thing to hear someone be very open about it. And Ginny won't mind me saying that she was very, very nervous about doing it. She only did it. She did it. The final push was that Kieran was there, and Kieran is her coach and, you know, CrossFit and stuff like that before.
Yeah.
And when she heard that, she said, right, I'll do it. And I was really happy, and I was delighted for her that she got a chance to do it. And then, obviously, again, like you, friends with her since.
Yeah.
Untitled Chapter. She's really cool.
She's great.
She's brilliant. I'll fly through another couple. So Kieran Hyland, for his insane energy when it came to talking about art and expression. He stood up during the whole interview. And this is part of this. Yeah, he did. He just stood up. He couldn't sit down. He's like that all the time. He was on another podcast afterwards with Lydia Dadal, who I also had on. But Kieran, I was in the studio with the camera, and Lydia's sitting down, and so is the producer, and Kieran's standing up, and he's wearing, like, it's winter, he's wearing a pair of shorts, and he can't. But his enthusiasm for what he does, and the fact he only started being an expressionist painter just as the kind of the pandemic was hitting, the way he spoke about it and the way he kind of dismissed
Salvador Dali. I remember. I was just, I loved it. I loved the fact, because I love Salvador Dali. Who the hell doesn't? Not Kieran. He was just so. His energy just came across on the podcast. I was really into it, thinking, I want to get paints out and just not give.
And he was so kind, and you can't see it on camera here, but he sent me a postcard of his work and it's up here on the wall, and it's very vibrant and beautiful piece of
I followed him on Instagram too.
He's great.
He's a really cool guy. You could really pick up on his energy.
I want to meet him. I'd love to have him in here to do a podcast, and hopefully we can work so now. Also, episode 50 obviously was a big one. We had Aisling Daly on, Queen of Irish MMA, someone who I've seen kick ass in the UFC, and it was kind of a genuine honor for me to chat to her about all things, you know, her life in fighting. But she has been so open about mental health the last number of years, and for just in general, I was going to say for a woman fighter, but it's not really about like the woman side of things. It's a fighter in general coming out and talking about mental health, because we see them as these strong, you know, there's no way they could have any, you know, difficulties. They'd fight anything.
Yes,
which is wrong. It's not the way we should look at it. So she was brilliant. Collie Ennis, I think, is my dad's favorite episode. Collie came on to talk about spike. You've heard Collie on Your Favorite Person in the World's podcast.
My boy Adam on. I did hear him there first.
That's where I heard him, and that's what, you know, I that's why I asked him to come on. He was so sound to come on, but just his love for what he does is probably the most kind of standout thing. He obviously knows his stuff. that goes without saying. But his love for what he does kind of came through in the podcast.
Yeah, he's an example of somebody, you know, when somebody's enthusiastic about what they love, you're interested in listening to them, even if the subject normally wouldn't even keep you listening for a minute.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's just so enthused. Yeah, he's cool.
I've had that. You've probably had the same thing with like podcasts and guests that might be on podcasts that where you think I'm not really going to be into this person, but as soon as they start talking about the subject matter, it's like, oh, you're in.
But that's it, because it's actually the subject you're not into. You know, it's the person you engage with, and when a person is talking about something, if they're enthused, they're generally interesting. You know.
No, it is.
I find anyway. Yeah.
No, I agree. And also Gary and Paul Abbott, who came on to talk about the Beatles, and obviously, I mean,
you like the Beatles, do you?
I like a couple of their songs.
Never mentioned her.
That's the thing about the Beatles.
No, I have no idea.
Big tattoo on my back. No, I don't. Just to say to my father, I do not have a tattoo of the Beatles on my back. But yeah.
Daddy, he's saving up.
That's the only thing I'd love enough to put on me. But Gary and Paul chat about the Beatles, we chat about their songs, favorite song, all those kind of things. I think I can say, it's my podcast, of course I can. I forgot. I thought it was your podcast for a second, but it is today.
I'll see if it's edited out or not.
I'll text you under the desk. But no, Gary and Paul are going to be coming back on to talk about the Beatles Get Back documentary on Disney. So that'd be great.
That's why you're watching Get Back for the second time.
Second time, yeah. And I love it.
Yeah, I know.
2.5 hours today of the first episode. I was having a great time. But yeah, so that's the first list. We have some more later.
Yeah, I want to get back to that in a while. Will we do the advert?
Yes, let's go.
Is it time for the advert? Now, no pressure at all here.
Never.
No, none whatsoever. Will I make a hames of this? Let's check it out. So, Fusion Training Centre, Monksland, Athlone, a place to train in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, kickboxing, martial arts, and CrossFit. Great atmosphere with experienced coaches and a real sense of community. If you want to join the team, find us on Facebook at Fusion Training Centre or drop in for a chat. Fusion Training Centre, train like a warrior.
Oh, that is beautiful. And the best bit was you were glancing at the camera every so often.
Oh yeah, a bit of
I never do that.
I was going to say train like a warrior because you said that earlier on, and I was like, that was I liked it.
Do you know what is funny?
I think I would train like a warrior.
Do you know what's funny about that, Tracy? That's actually stuck. Because it was my mom that said I'm saying it like I'm saying warrior, and like that. Even Martin Costello, and this isn't my friend Martin Costello in training said it to me during the week. Maybe it was even yesterday that he said train like a warrior when I said warrior because we were joking, and it's stuck now. So my mom has made an indelible impression on this podcast.
I expect a lot of people train like warriors.
Yeah, for sure.
That's allowed. So, I was going to ask you about dream guests. If you could have anyone in the world on your podcast, alive or dead. Obviously, if they were dead, they wouldn't be much crack, but you know.
No, they wouldn't.
The old rigor mortis isn't the most entertaining. You know what I mean. Dream guests.
Do you know, like when it comes to like a guest alive that I'd like to have on would be, I think it'd be Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh, yeah.
There's something about Joaquin Phoenix, and I think it's more to do with the mystery of Joaquin Phoenix. He's not out there, publicity wise. He never has been.
Yeah.
He's my favorite kind of living actor. I've seen him on a podcast with his two sisters have a podcast. Okay. That's the only time I've seen him on it, and he's clearly very relaxed because it's his sister. So it's like they're just having a chat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he always strikes me as someone who every time he's on the campaign trail, he hates just that side of things. It's clearly he does it for the love of the work he's putting in.
Yes, and he's incredible. It's funny because I think if somebody asked me about actors, I'd be thinking hard who impresses me. But he's so impressive. Yeah.
Every single time, and it's like when I watched the Power of the Dog on Netflix the other day, and Benedict Cumberbatch is in it, right? And it kind of stood out to me because he was like, he's not my favorite actor in any way. Like, he wouldn't be one that stood out for me at all because he always seems to be doing the same English posh roles, you know.
Yeah.
But he's this like he's a rancher in Montana, and he's the intensity that he has. It's like you don't know what's going to happen every time he's on screen. Like he could burn the whole place down, kind of. You know, there's a look in his eye, and I get that from Joaquin Phoenix in a lot of his roles. So when he does those, you're kind of like, oh yeah, he's great. You know, he's brilliant. But then he does switch to these kind of more tender stuff, like you know, film Her.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, but it's a great film. Like,
maybe.
He falls in love with his phone app. Like,
no, I haven't seen that.
It's an amazing film, and I think it's on Netflix. But it's just like he can do both. His kind of disdain for like public life, and he's in the middle of public life.
Yeah,
is interesting to me. I'd love to have him on for a chat. I think.
Yeah, what's going on there, Wacky?
What's happening, Wacky? And then, like, Dead is kind of obviously. There's so many more kind of examples, I guess, of people that I'd like to have on. I mean, everybody's going to know I'm going to say John Lennon, or even maybe George Harrison. But you know, there's a lot of writers who passed away that I think, like someone like Ernest Hemingway, because he was like obviously very smart and, you know, obviously intellectual and all that stuff, but there was a lot more going on for him. Like, you know, there was a lot to do with mental health, and there was a lot of anger, and you know, he obviously drank a lot as well. And just to, if we are sticking to that theme of mental health, like what was, you know, they didn't talk about it at the time, so nobody ever asked Ernest Hemingway what was the crack with his mental health, you know.
Yeah, come here, Ernest. When did you first become aware of mental health?
You know, and then
that'd be some answer, Eric.
I don't know. Anything could kick off. It's like the Joaquin Phoenix thing. You just don't know. But I hope they're sufficient answers.
Absolutely, yeah, great answers. I'm just trying to get a bit of payback because you brought me back on with 3 other wonderful women for the kind of desert island disc style thing, and I was terribly dramatic about being asked to pick favorites. I'm very.
You were dramatic.
It's trying to pick a favorite child. I imagine I don't have children, but I imagine that's also difficult. But
I don't know. Every one of you, bar Nicola, were kind of dramatic, worried about what they were going to pick, and Joanne was like telling me just these are awful, these are terrible questions.
Yeah, Joanne beat me in the dramatic stakes, and that's saying something.
She was
horrified at having to pick favorites as well.
She was, but
there's so much wonderful music and film. Like, how can you pick favorites?
Yeah, but she finished last, so it's all.
Yeah, I didn't win, so I don't know why I'm cold.
Sorry, Joanne. Ginny won, did she? Yeah, I think it was Ginny. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm bad at remembering.
I think so. Oh, we'll be in loads of trouble if we've got that right.
Yeah, it's either Ginny or Nicola.
We were all great. We were all.
It was a fabulous episode.
I did actually really enjoy that.
It was good crack. Now
it was just socializing. It was brilliant. That's something I do very often. So on that payback theme, we're going to give a mini desert island discs thing here. Seeing as I'm the host, I'm going to do what I want, but I'm not really on mine. But I would like to ask you your 3 desert island discs.
Well, I've, as you know, I've talked a bit about, like, people have asked the question a few times about like favorite songs and things like that.
Banning the Beatles.
No. Do you know what? Do you know what? We will actually. Do you know what? It's a good.
The Beatles.
Yeah, not literally. Like it's a good idea for me not to talk about the Beatles, right? So.
I'm just being a fussy cow because I just want to know what's beyond the Beatles for you, Derek.
Yes, what is beyond the Beatles? I'll tell you what, the first song that comes to my head. No, I'm not going to pick that. No, I will. I'll pick.
Say it's not easy.
No, it's very easy. I'm going to say Graceland by Paul Simon.
Oh, this is very strange synchronicity. I was out for dinner a couple of weeks ago. My sister's moving away, but she's gone now to America. And we went out for a meal. And while we were sitting there, Graceland came on. And I was like, oh my God, I'd forgotten what a fabulous song that is. And I stuck it onto my Spotify list. I don't have it on vinyl, Derek.
No,
you do.
Actually, like I have about 60, we'll say, records, and I do actually have Graceland by Paul Simon.
Of course you do.
Of course I do.
Yeah, but that's strange. I hadn't heard that song in ages, and it's fantastic. Yeah, okay, I'll give you kudos for that one.
Do you know what I love about it? Like, because as a song, if it was just a guy singing it on an acoustic guitar, it would sound great because the lyrics are unbelievable in it or whatever. But when you listen to it on headphones, I think you hear all these little like lead guitar bits under and the
Intricacy.
bass. Yeah, there's like loads, and I know he had some of the most skilled musicians from Africa, and I don't know what country it was in, South Africa, but it's just great. I love it. I will pick Jump. What is it? Jump Into the Fire by Harry Nilsson, because
not Van Halen. Then I thought you were gonna Jump.
No, God, no. Jump is Van Halen. Yeah. But Jump Into the Fire is just one of those, like, there's this bass line of doom doom doo 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 doo, and it just goes like that. Yeah, air bass walking. Yeah, but
I'm really good at air bass. I play it at the traffic lights sometimes.
I really like air bass because you do this rather than that. You do a little bit of that. But it's one, like, the bass just keeps going. Then there's a middle where the bass player starts detuning his guitar and then retuning it, and the drums are going all over the place. And it's great. And Harry Nilsson,
a good bass line makes the song as well.
Yeah, a good bass line is the key.
It's the backbone.
It's the backbone. And then I'm going to pick. I might have mentioned this before, but I can't remember. But Girls Just Want to Have Fun by Cyndi Lauper.
Oh, Cyndi is a legend.
Oh, she's so, and that.
Oh, and she's just fab. Yeah.
You know, that opening guitar part is just like, it's just essential to joy. It just brings me joy. As soon as I hear it, it's just, I'm delighted that the song starts.
I think one of the guys on you had the lads back for the Desert Island Discs thing, I think one of them chose the Cyndi Lauper song, because I remember him I think he was kind of apologetic almost, as if it was embarrassing, because I was there going, no, it is not. Like, shame.
Guilty pleasure.
That was it. It was a guilty pleasure. I was like, why the hell would anyone be guilty about listening to Cyndi Lauper?
No.
I love her so much. And she's really inspiring when I was younger, because she was different, you know. She was all the crazy hair color and that, and she was just fab. Yeah.
So there, and a great voice, obviously, as well. And they're my three.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm suitably impressed.
There we go.
And while we're at it, let's go for your 3 films, because I know that won't involve any stalling whatsoever. Go.
Okay. Throne of Blood by Akira Kurosawa. That's obviously it's a Japanese film, right? But it's a remake of Hamlet.
Oh,
sorry, Macbeth. I apologize. Macbeth. It's the best. You know how many remakes there are of Shakespeare, or retellings of Shakespeare films. This is the one. It's set during, samurai time in Japan, and it's so good. It's like it's set in it was shot in the 50s, but it's amazing. Everything they do, even some of the camera tricks they do for the 50s, are like far ahead of what even Hollywood were doing at the time.
Yeah.
So that's one of the kind of one I always hold back in the back of my mind. I will say, I'm going to say There Will Be Blood. I may have mentioned that before. I don't care. It's just so good. It's like the tale. You could almost align it with Macbeth. Like, this kind of tale of just greed and power, and Day-Lewis is just, a different level in it, and I love it an awful lot.
Have you rewatched it a million times?
I've rewatched it a good few times. It's because it's such a long film. You kind of like, will I go in? Like, you have to gear up for like a 3-hour film.
Yeah, immerse yourself in it.
You gotta get ready. You gotta like put your phone away as well. That's another thing what you're trying to do when I'm watching films now.
Yeah, ban the phone when there's a film on, because you need to be immersed in it. Yeah.
You do, like. It was like I did it the other morning, like I said, the Power Dog, and I had to have the phone away, because you think, oh, well, I can hear everything, but a lot of some films like There Will Be Blood, a lot of it is to do with looks and glances and things like that, and that is just like so important. I'm gonna go with, oh God, I have a few now in my head, and I don't want to like. I don't want to. They're like,
it's hard. It's hard. I told you.
It is very hard. But I'm going to say the last detail. It's about it's set in the 70s. Jack Nicholson and his they're in the Navy, and they have to transport a guy who's broken the code of the Navy to Navy prison in the northeast of America. So they have to bring him on a train, but they decide this fellow's really young. It's actually Randy Quaid who plays he's not in a comedy role, like, he's playing a straight character. So they kind of start bringing him into to get to visit a sex worker, and they're trying to give him some sort of experiences before he gets put away for 2 years because of what he did. And it's brilliant. I'd recommend it.
What was it called again?
The Last Detail.
The Last Detail. Okay.
Yeah, it's cool. And Jack Nicholson is just, come on,
Yeah, throw him in anything.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Just the face alone, he's fantastic. He's so expressive. I love
he
him.
is, yeah.
So that's you out of your Desert Island Discs. Well done. Yeah, big deep breath. You did it. Well done. So do you want to hit back into some of the highlights of your podcast?
A massive this was a great episode, but I think what stood out for me was the kindness of Kira Helian, because we recorded the episode, and as it was rendering, or whatever that word John tells me, I think it's rendering, and as it was we'll say uploading, should have said that first place, but as it was doing that, I realized it failed, and I had to text her immediately and say, look, it's not after working. Now, Kira straight away came back and said, listen, give me half an hour. I just actually opened a bottle of wine. I'm going to have this glass of wine. I'll jump back in. And she went again, and it was incredibly sound of her to do that.
Oh, good on her.
Yeah, it was. And because immediately the way my mind works, panic stations, everything was going to be ruined if I didn't get this out. Yeah. So that was brilliant. And she offered a great, actually, she taught me a lot about Pilates as well, which is good. Laura Murphy was the 50th guest. Laura came on and talked about her mother's experience in a mother and baby home. And she talked about the power of imbas and poetry. And she was so, you're talking about that, like the interest you have in someone. Like,
yes.
I was kind of glued to it myself. And I had to try to remember that get the next question ready. You have to she was brilliant. She was so open and honest about all the stuff. This is in retrospect, Niall Morgan's episode is even more important, because when we were just chatting about him playing for Tyrone as the goalkeeper and for his county club and stuff like that. And then a few months later he wins the All-Ireland with Tyrone, and it became like I took some credit for it. Just decided I was going to take some credit for him. It's a ridiculous idea. So he was cool, and I got in touch with him and I congratulated him, and we're delighted for him. Obviously, kicked a couple of points in the final too. A great episode for me. I think it was around number 76. I might be wrong. I should have noted that, but I entitled it "This Is a Low," and I recorded it when I was in a bipolar low, and it became. It was a really strange time to record, because you're already thinking you're pretty useless and you're terrible, and I shouldn't be doing this podcast anyway. All these voices in your head kind of telling you you're crap. So to do the episode and to come away with the kind of satisfaction that I did something that this whole thing, it's not based around, not just my mental health, it's based around mental health, but I have to be expressive about my own if I want to move forward. And I was able to talk about that and then follow it up the next week when I was feeling a bit better. And I was delighted we got that done and out there. So yeah, there was another one, Brendan Harding, who came on recently. He's a sand play therapist, and I don't know how. I'm not one that checks the views and listens and all that, but he got a huge amount of views on YouTube, and obviously he put it out there somewhere. He's not on social media anywhere, but it was incredible to listen to him talk about that, but talk about meditation. He's such a calming voice, and he just drew you in, it's just
great.
Very, it was great. He was a fascinating guest to have on. Asbestos came on, brilliant chat about art, but to talk to a guy with a mirrored box on his head was very, it was so bizarre for the first 15 minutes, because I'm looking at myself reflected on a screen, and it was really
quite distracting. Yeah. It
was strange, yeah, and like I had no vote, I had no facial tics to tell me if he's going to finish a sentence or it was all this stuff. So it's just this. It was class. It was a real talking point as well. A couple more. Lisa McInerney, nerve-wracking because of the how much I appreciate her writing. And
it's strange because you would not pick up at all that you were nervous. It was just, it flowed so well, that podcast. Yeah, she's fantastic. But yeah, it was a really good podcast to listen to. She was so
I don't know. Again, it's about expectation and the idea, that someone's going to be a bit stuck up because they've written some great novels and, won some big awards. But she was anything but. She was the opposite of what I expected. And it was such a great chat. Niamh Fitzpatrick talked about that was, I think it was episode 98. She talked about grief, and she lost her sister Dara in that terrible accident that people remember from 2017 when their helicopter, they were out rescuing people, and Dara was the pilot, and there was a technical fault and the helicopter crashed. And Neve talked about that so well, and talked about the book she wrote around it, and talked about, actually was the first person who maybe talked about the positivities of social media, in the sense that she had a connection with people when they talked about grief. And when people had read her book, they were like, that reminded me when I lost my husband, or whatever it might have been. And it was
because we can forget sometimes that, it has a positive impact as well. It does unite people in things like that.
If you hang around the right circles, I mean, it's good. But I think and then the last one we've touched on this, that the quiz episodes are such fun because they had the lads on and yourselves on, and it was just, I could just sit back and enjoy and have a bit of crack, and there was no, I didn't feel any nerves before, because I knew you all, I talked to you all before, and I think it was, I know you enjoyed it.
I kind of forgot myself, as I said to you, it was just like a Zoom hangout, even though I hadn't spoken to any of the women before, but it just was such fun,
But
until my camera, my battery died.
Ruined it,
had to make a haze of it, and it had to be me.
No, but that's my list of memorable, but like, I want to thank every guest who's come on, because everybody's been as important as the other, and they were just some of the things that I had in my mind.
It would be impossible for you to discuss every single guest. Of course, you appreciate everybody.
Exactly.
And having done all these episodes, you started this out, like, as we were saying, at the beginning of a pandemic, which was all a bit strange. How has being a podcast host impacted you, changed you? Derek back then, Derek today, what have you taken away from it all? What's different about you?
The way, like, people, we talk about the ego a lot, like, and everybody has an ego. You have to have an ego, obviously. And I don't think I've ever had a particularly, like, strong ego. I don't think it's ever been, like, outstanding in that sense. Like, but I do think that it's realized that when you talk to people and people are talking back to you, it's never, you never listen properly. I don't think you listen to the first bit, and then you immediately start forming the bit you're going to say before the person's finished. And I find that I'm getting better. I'm not saying I've conquered this, by the way, at all, because I do, as the podcast host, have to be aware that I need to have a question lined up. But I also, and I think my mom has noted this a number of times, she always says that I'm becoming a very good listener, or I am a very good listener, because I never repeat stuff that the guest has already said. You'll hear on, like, a radio interview or something, like, a guest might say something, and 2 questions later, there's like an echo back at them from the host, and they're like, well, they've answered that bit, but it's because they're forming the other little bit in their head. I think I'm getting better at that, and, like, the ego is kind of, it's, I don't think I came into this thinking, oh, great, look, I have my own podcast now, aren't I brilliant? But, like, there's obviously a certain bit of it where you're kind of, oh, great, I'm starting something. This is significant to me, but it became more of, like, this became a shared kind of experience, like the 100 episodes, not forgetting about the solo episodes, but, like, with all the guests coming on, like, the amount of stuff that the people who listen all the time, or have listened to a lot of them, the amount of stuff we've learned from people. And I know you listen to a lot of podcasts, and like Blind Boy, for instance, the guests he gets on are such interesting people. Like, and I had listened to podcasts before with, obviously, Blind Boy, but other podcasters, and I've always thought, like, how will I find these people? Like, how am I going to get interested people on? Like, because you're like, I've never met the person, and they're going to meet them on Zoom, and I'm just going to start talking to them. And what if they're deadly boring? Like, because you do worry about that, because then you're like, I can't not put out the episode. That's rude. Like, they've given me their time.
Sorry, thanks for coming over, but you were so boring.
You were so boring, I had to cut it. But it's about that, like, the ego, with regards, I suppose, more to, I've done this to share it with people, and maybe at the start, like, there was a little bit of an ego thing, but it quickly became rubbed out from the fact that all these people have contributed so much to this little podcast that myself and John have put together. And like, I wouldn't have been able to do it, but I'm getting better with people as well. I had lost the idea that I was going to be social again. I thought, hold on, is my thing's gone a bit? Oh, it's coming out. It was plugging out there. I sounded like a robot.
Okay, it
maybe
sounded good at this end.
that mightn't come through. Yeah, but I started sounding like a robot. But yeah, it just, I don't know. There's so much that has been contributed to it, and I'm so grateful for everyone coming on it. And there's like, I couldn't be prouder of what myself and John have done, really.
Yeah, you should be as well. Give yourself a bit of fair play to me,
Fair play.
We don't do that enough in life,
No, we don't.
Sometimes you'll be a long time waiting for to get it externally. So sometimes you have to go, you know what? I'm doing great.
I'm doing great. Fair play to me.
Yeah, fair play to you and John. And is there I'm sure there's plenty of them, but with regards to like a takeaway from coming away from talking to somebody and thinking, I've never thought about that like that before, it's something that's changed your outlook on something, or any of that going on?
Oh, like if you talk to Anne, Anne's my housemate, if anyone didn't know, and like, I go downstairs after an episode, I'm buzzing, like, and it's partly because you've got another one in the bag, obviously, you've got it done and got it edited and stuff, but it's mainly to do with, like, I've consciously tried to take things away from everything now, or from every episode now. So sometimes it's a physical thing, like jumping in the lake now and in the sea.
Which is, you're like my deranged sister. She
goes
like swimming every day of the year
with her hat.
She's in the sea. Yeah, she's the woolly hat swimmer.
Yeah,
you do that too. Yeah.
But that was like, when I talked to Niall Numericu, and he had spoken about that to do with the Wim Hof and stuff. So I decided, right, I'm going to do that. And then,
and you're still doing that, Derek? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still doing that. Like,
good on you, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll be in again this Thursday, which is going to be fun. But doing that is one thing, and doing the physical side of things. But like, even going to you remember when I went to you for a session?
I do. Yeah.
And I hadn't done it before, so I'm sure everybody's like this. Just, you don't know, like, you've never done it, so you're a little bit wary, and you don't know what's going to happen. And
were you scared of me, Derek?
Well, I was scared of you before I met you. This is nothing to do with.
I am a bit of a scary bear, yes.
But it was taking that kind of step. I would never have done that like 3 or 4 years ago. Just no chance.
And of course, you came away feeling
brilliant. I did, yeah. But I said it to you, like, at the time when you said about, like, how you asked me how long it was, and I thought it was like 10, 15 minutes. It was like 50 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, there's always a distortion in time when it's just a thing. It's just.
But but you, like, for that's what was bizarre for me, and I said it to people afterwards, like, that if anything takes away my anxiety at any point, I'm immediately kind of going like, well, I'm trying to figure it out, like, because it, like, whether it's you go for a run, it does take away my anxiety. There's a few different things, but I couldn't figure that out. Like, I couldn't get my head around it, so I was even more like thrilled by it, fascinated by it, and that kind of process of taking things on from each episode. Now, it's not going to work with every episode. Sometimes it's just not the episode for it. You know what I mean? Like, but there's always an episode now where I'm like, this is what I'm going to take away. I'm going to look up who is it, Eckhart Tolle? I'm going to look like
the Power of Now guy.
Power of Now guy. Look, I haven't yet. I'll be honest, I haven't looked it up yet. But someone was talking about it a couple of episodes ago, and who was it? That's very rude of me. This is the problem with trying to remember everybody's name.
Not rude, it's forget.
Emma's her name. See, I have a copy here in front of me. Emma Finneran. Yeah, Emma was talking about it, and somebody.
Emma's the life coach.
Yeah, the life coach.
Yeah.
I wonder if it was someone had mentioned him before, and I can't remember who it was. It might have been Cheryl Byrne, but sorry if it wasn't. But it's like that. Like, why? Like, if this person takes so much from Eckhart Tolle, like, why not, like, just look him up and read his book? And if it doesn't work, sure.
Nothing to lose.
So I think I've taken, and I hope people notice it, like, I've taken so much confidence from it, and I've taken, that kind of, like, obviously a better listener as well, and I'm taking some physical stuff from it. But I just want to say, actually, while we're on that point, like, if it wasn't for Fusion Training Center and all the people in there, I wouldn't have started the podcast. That's how important it was to me at the time as well. So that's an extension of meeting these people, being able to talk to people, and then be confident enough to kind of start the podcast and, keep it going every week. Like we haven't missed a week yet. And it's, that's pretty impressive. I think it's great.
Yeah. Fantastic. So going forward, as the politicians say, going forward, what do you see for the podcast? What would you like it to, do? What would you like to do with it?
I think one thing I'd love to do, I spoke about this before, and I don't know if I spoke about it on the podcast, but I definitely spoke about it with someone. The idea of a live gig where, where I could get, 3 or 4 guests, maybe get a bit of music in between, like have a proper fundraising event, and like, I don't look, it's just an idea in my mind. If someone comes up to me, where are you going to have it? I don't know. I'm just saying.
It's an idea,
yeah. It's merely an idea where I think it would be great for a number of reasons, like for the charity that we give the money to, obviously, but obviously for being able to kind of get to see people face to face face to face when they're watching, not the guests obviously, but see people who have watched or listened to a lot of the episodes, and have former guests there as well, like where you can kind of. I haven't met a lot of former guests in real life, like it's been Zoom, so I think that'd be deadly as well, and to have a bit of music there and just for a bit of crack, and everybody kind of get together and have a bit of fun, and I think it'd be fun. I think that's one thing. I think I'd like to do some on site get interviews. So travel to a guest. Now it will involve getting an actual proper camera, not the little one I have up there, but get a proper camera and travel if I have to Dublin, or me and John. He can drive now, so he's got a little red Mini Cooper, and we can go, the Wheatley on tour. And I think that'd be a lot of fun, and it would take another thing it would take the pressure off me with regards to making sure it's everything recording, all this stuff. I wouldn't have to worry about looking at the screen to see if the recording was picking up properly or whatever, when it's on the software. Just relax and talk to a guest. So that was our idea initially with Aisling Daly for episode 50, because we were going to travel to her. Because we both hold her in such like high regard with MMA, but obviously the pandemic and that, so we couldn't do it. But that's another one. And then keep doing it, like do it every week. Keep getting interesting guests on. Try and get a there's a good little community we have, but try and get more involved in it, and push it out there and say, like, it's nothing to do. We never wanted it to be about like getting money or anything like that, getting paid or anything. It's irrelevant. If we're going to set any kind of what's it called, Patreon up, it would be for a charity. If we were ever to do that, we're not comfortable doing it.
It's okay to get paid for.
No, it's of course it is. But
you do provide something good. And
I mean.
Just saying. I'm just.
No, saying. You're right. No, look, you're not the first person to say it either, and I agree. But I'd like it from the actual recording and from the people listening to it. I'd like that money to go to somewhere else. If we were to do something,
that's a really good idea. It's nice. It's never been driven by anything but the need to share and communicate, and that comes across as well. Because if anybody's in something for the money, it flops straight away because there's no authenticity to it.
No, and like it's I'm not that's the great thing about not doing it for the money, is that it's because it's taken off the table. It genuinely comes about, what am I interested in? Who am I interested in talking to? What subject do I want highlighted? Balance in between the professional, mental health professionals and people who have suffered with their mental health, or then just people who are just going to have a bit of crack and come on, like, and talk about different things that we were like the Wim Hof stuff or something. Like, like, I don't understand that, but I'll try it. But if we were ever to do like maybe merchandise or something, maybe we might take a cut of that or something. But look, we were thinking about that a long time ago, and to be honest with, we looked into it, and you've got to pay a site to put up your stuff, and that's just pointless. I just said to John, we'll leave it. Like, I've got this. If anybody hasn't seen it before, I've got this.
Oh, the old mug,
mug. I've got a mug and I've got a T-shirt. And to be honest, I think John's got one of the mugs and Josh has got one of the T-shirts. That's all that's out there.
You should be wearing your merch when you're doing your.
To be honest, it's too cold in this room.
You've got Fusion Training Centre on.
Okay. I represent. But I think those to go forward. That's kind of the plans, anyways, Tracy.
Yeah. So I mean, well done. And
Thank you very much.
Congratulations again, 100 episodes. Thank you for having me, by the way, because
look, I want to ask you actually before you go. Just no. I just want to ask. First of all, where can people find you?
Where can they find me? Well, where I am today is where I would like people to find me, and I am in the Dancing Soul in Monksland, Athlone, and that's where I do my work from. I love it here. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist and help people with smoke cessation, anxiety, phobias, all that. And they can find me on social media, Teresa Bolger, clinical hypnotherapy. At work, I'm Teresa, so it can get a bit confusing, by the way. So I'm Tracy, Teresa. So at work, I'm Teresa. So Facebook is the best place really to find me. I have a bit on Instagram, but I'm very middle-aged, so I don't have much on there. I haven't quite figured out Instagram. So yeah, get me. And I have a website, teresabolger.com.
There you go.
Yeah, that's where I am. And
can I ask
you for having me? Yeah.
No, good. Can I ask like when I asked you to do this, to be honest, when I asked you, I knew you were going to do it, like, because it's just who you are. Like, but are you someone like who would be, because you do the hypnotherapy side of things as well, and to do with anxiety. Were you a bit nervous about doing it?
Strangely enough, no.
Right.
I was actually trying to analyze this earlier today, because like 5 years ago, I'd have probably just immediately refused to do it out of nerves. But I don't know. I did a presentation last year for this is a mouthful, the European Association of Professional Hypnotherapists, catchy or what?
Yeah.
But I did a presentation for them to help other therapists with smoke cessation, because that's my area of speciality. And again, I went to do it, and I wasn't nervous, and I can't quite figure out when this new part of me has come along. But I'm just. You know what it is? I'm at ease talking about things I know about, and I'm at ease talking about things I like. And, you and I get on. So for me, this was just going to be you and I chatting. Maybe not nervous, a little bit hesitant or hopeful that, I'm probably a little bit wooden today, because I am conscious that I'm on Zoom and I'm doing something I've done before. So yeah, maybe a bit conscious of that, and maybe a bit worried on your behalf, because it's your podcast. So I hope I'd be more, rather than nervous, just really hopeful I get this, done well, and it's, to honor your podcast, because I don't want it to go badly that way. But nervous, no, not really.
Right.
Yeah, it's a funny question, because I was thinking in the car on the way, but when did I start getting like this? Because I did just say yes without hesitation.
Yeah,
of course I do it. I'm walking the dog, but I'll get back to you later. And I was thinking, oh, that's interesting. I wasn't like that. So I'm obviously, my personality has developed to a point where, I think what it is if I like the subject or I like the person, it's all good. But if you ask me to come and talk about something that I wasn't familiar with, I probably just wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Look, I'm the same. And look, you just mentioned your dog, and like it took you about an hour. That's incredible.
I never talk about my dog.
Yeah. You talk about your dog as much as I talk about the Beatles, and that's an awful lot.
Yeah. My dog's better than the Beatles.
No, that can't be true. Your dog is better than Lennon McCartney.
She's better than Jesus.
Yeah.
Your voice said that.
She is.
Controversial.
It's John Lennon only got banned for that. But she is gorgeous. The picture you put up the other day is very funny. She's like looking up and like
the stunned look. Yeah. She looked all shocked. She's a great girl. Yeah. You see how I got through the whole thing without talking about the dog?
Nearly. No, you said it. You said that.
But, I was walking the dog when you asked me to.
Yeah, see.
Yeah, she's the center of my world. Everybody knows.
Right, Tracy, you've got one more job.
Okay.
No, before you go, actually, sorry.
Oh.
I don't know if I said it before, but really appreciate you doing this. It was great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and like I say, it's an honor. Thank you. You know what I like as well, just before we finish up, and I think, is my final job to do the thank yous? Or did you have another job?
No, you've got that.
Yeah, and what I was going to say to you is something that I really like about this podcast, about you, I suppose. Not I suppose, I'm certain, is, you have such a huge appreciation for the people in your life and the support you have, and, the guys at Fusion and your mom and dad and your family. And I love that thing that you do, that I'm about to do for you. You appreciate people around you, and that's a good thing in life,
For sure.
So on that note, on behalf of Derek Wheatley, in his 100th episode, thanks to John Francis for the tech. thanks to Derek's mom, dad, his granddad, Ger, Calvin. And we'd like to ask you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And the Weekly is on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can find them on Spotify, Apple, Anchor, Google Podcasts, etc. Thank you so much to everyone for listening, and we'll see you next week. I won't, but Derek will.
Beautifully done. I'm sure everybody will say the same thing. You were brilliant, Tracy. Thank you so much. And I want to say thank you, everybody, for watching, obviously, this episode, for all the other episodes. We're going to keep going, and Tracy will be back for number 200.
Yay! Thank you.
Everyone, have a good day. Take care.
Cheers.
Bye.